Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Today, we're having Philip, the founder of CripeHub. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Yeah. Could you please introduce yourself in a couple of sentences?
Yeah. So my name is Philip Cripe. I'm an American born in France who has dual citizenship. And so I grew up mostly between Europe and the US. And I've been working as a software and then technology broker for, I guess, since 2015 on and off. And then I've been a full stack developer, tester, all kinds of different things in IT, all the way up to CEO. Pretty much everything in between except graphic design.
Nice, thanks. Yeah, you've worked as everything from developer to CEO, CTO. What exactly do you do?
So to simplify it, when I'm talking with somebody who has no idea how technology works, the way I explain it is I meet somebody who has a business need, and I know I have a network of companies that have technology solutions, and then I put the two together when it makes sense. And that's the easiest way to explain it.
Okay, thanks. I also know that you call yourself a technology broker. What does this mean? And yeah, what do you not do?
So I found that easier to use than saying I sell, for example, software development services, or if you need help with inventing a new technology for rockets, I know somebody, right? And so a broker in insurance, for example, somebody who will find the best insurance company for your situation, whatever that may be, depending on geographic location, the language spoken, country, like the rules, all that sort of thing. So I do the same thing, but with technology, usually software, but not just software. I've been asked to represent companies to sell things that weren't software to governments and things like that. So all of a sudden I ended up in this situation where it's not software, so I can't say it's software brokering or that kind of service. It's and sometimes it can be like actual physical products, like building something for a government. And they're like, hey, can you contact this government? Because we're from another country and we don't have maybe the same connections or the same cultural understanding. So it's broadened out to be very, like, everything's a little bit different. For example, somebody reached out for me to help them with their accounting because everything they have is on the blockchain. They need someone that can discuss things with the accountants and understand what's going on the blockchain and the wallets and all that sort of thing, and kind of build a bridge between the business that's all blockchain focused and the accountants that are all finance focused.
Nice. So what do you use more, your technical skills or your soft skills and your network?
I'd have to say soft skills, to be honest. I have to do something technical on my own sometimes just to feel like I'm not wasting those skills, even though my understanding of technology helps. But I have to actually go out and do something on my own sometimes just to feel like I'm not getting rusty. So, yeah.
Yeah, thanks. That's very interesting. You're advising projects as well, and you are connected with more than 400 teams.
Right.
What is your criteria when working with projects?
So with projects, it's usually it has to be something realistic, and realistic doesn't have to be something easy. So it's a bit complicated to explain, but if somebody says, I want to build a crypto exchange for $2,000 and I never want to spend a penny more, and I want to build it on, I don't know, it's going to be focused on this really obscure meme coin, I'm not going to get involved in that, because there's, I know it takes more than that to build that kind of software. So when somebody has a completely unrealistic expectation, that's when I usually don't jump in and help join the team as an advisor or help find them developers, because the only developer I'm going to find is a freelance guy who's just willing to build something really fast from something already existing, modify it a little bit, and then say, hey, here you go. And it's not going to have the security necessary to withstand any kind of use. It's not going to be scalable, that sort of thing. So I stick to projects and teams that I believe are honest, intelligent, rational about what they're doing, and viable long term.
Mm-hmm. Thanks. Nice. And what do you think was the biggest mistake you see founders make?
Having a good idea and then selling out to investors and changing the entire like vision before even trying to get it to market or testing the market, and then kind of watering down or destroying the original goal until it's unrecognizable. It's completely something else. It's like not protecting their vision enough seems to be a problem. The opposite, well, that's after their their vision is something actually reasonable. So you have two extremes, like unrealistic expectations and then not protecting the vision at all and then becoming something completely different.
Yeah. Nah, it's important to find a balance.
Right.
Everything. Interesting. And also you bring multiple teams together under one roof. How do you handle conflicts or lack of common language between them?
Yeah. So for example, there was a project where there was a team that was specialized in blockchain and a team specialized in an e-commerce platform. And for this project to work, they had to work together. So I actually found that both teams, brought them together, and then offered the solution to the business that way. And you really have to build like it's a soft skills thing first. You have to build a connection between the teams where they don't think they're competing with each other. I've had to step in and help teams that had considered they were competing with each other, and then find a way for them to learn to work together again instead of seeing each other as the enemy, which is really hard to build software together when you think the other developer is trying to get you kicked off the project. Like that was a really strange experience. And that was sadly in like the medical field. So like two teams with a third team that I wasn't involved with. All three of them were competing to kick each other out and be the only team working on the project. And they were all brought together on this project before I even knew it existed. And I was brought in just to mediate. So I also do that sort of thing, which is much more complicated to fix relationships after they've broken down than to keep them from starting off badly. But that was an interesting experience because I did manage to get them on the same page finally. But it was a lot of work, a lot of calls together just for make sure they would communicate things and not hold things in and become bitter towards each other. So soft skills goes a long way, even with, like a bunch of like I would consider myself a nerd too, but a bunch of nerds in a room, you can still have, emotions and all kinds of interpersonal conflict.
Yeah, that's complicated. And also, speaking about balance and this stuff, have you ever turned down a project because the client refused to accept reality and was like...
All the time. Sadly, it happens more than I actually signed clients, I would say.
Yeah. Or maybe, could you give us an example?
So like the example I gave earlier has happened more times than I can count, where somebody's like, I want to build a crypto exchange for $2,000. Like that seems to be, or $300. That seems to be extremely common, or it was in, when was that? 2020, 2021, there were a lot of people, especially young people, that they'd heard about Bitcoin and Ethereum, and they were like, I want to build an exchange and get rich, like some of these decentralized exchanges seem to be, but they don't understand liquidity and they don't understand any of the other aspects of an exchange, so they don't understand that's not going to work. So that's a very common one, but there are others too.
Yeah, thanks. You're very interesting. You've worked across different chains, Solana and other ecosystems. What's the real reason most Web3 products fail, and how do you fix that upstream?
The main problem is usually, well, I've been part of projects that failed to do this, is not getting real world market acceptance. So you can have a great idea if when you come and try to bring it to market, nobody cares and it doesn't make any sense for the actual clients that you're looking for, it's not going to work. So you either need to pivot or move on. And one project I worked for, we built a gamified auction. Gamers hate microtransactions, and people who like auctions don't like extra steps. So it was like the worst of our market reach was zero. because the two potential markets that we were trying to bring together in one place basically despise everything each other stand for. It was hilarious, actually, now looking back, that we even tried, but we learned a lot, and there were actually some interesting technological improvements to other things that came through it that everyone involved can use in their day-to-day activities. Like the development team found ways to host like NFTs and things like that for internal transactions on a platform without extra gas fees and things like that. So it's fascinating stuff on the technical side, but on the business side, it was very difficult.
Yeah.
We had to pivot to something completely else and focus on one of the two markets. Otherwise, there was no way forward.
Yeah, but that's pretty common, right? That then it will be used in different fields and
right. Like you have an idea and then you try to build it and then you realize, oh wait, like the Post-it, like the glue for that was supposed to be really strong. Accident, doesn't work right. Piece of paper, oh, it sticks to the. And now almost every office has Post-its. I actually see a half-used Post-it on my desk right now. They're all over the place. And as 3M, that company made so much money just off of an accident that it's worth trying out. If the idea is not completely like a bad, evil idea that's going to hurt people, it's probably a good idea to try out.
Yeah, thanks. And what do you say about AI and that everyone wants to add AI now to their products? And what's the most common mistake about machine learning you see among founders?
Well, you already talked about it a little bit, because a lot of the people that talk about AI don't know what machine learning is. So I remember brokering projects where they were asking for machine learning for things. And then a few years later, with large language models coming out, everybody's talking about AI. But I remember when AI was the non-player characters in video games, not large language models. So artificial intelligence has become this one specific aspect of artificial intelligence instead of like the whole spectrum. And so I feel like the words artificial intelligence are no longer make sense, and AI no longer makes sense, because depending on which market you're talking in or industry you're speaking to, it means completely different things. And machine learning itself has so much more potential than just the large language models, even though they already have quite a lot of potential. And I've actually been playing around with them and trying to build a tool myself with it, and realized even being in this space for so long and knowing machine learning for longer than the most people, I still had some concepts wrong about how it works. So when I actually dove in and started using it to build other things, I ran into some issues where some things aren't really as they seem. And so in the background, it actually works differently than the way it appears when you're just typing in things and seeing the response.
Yeah, and what do you think? What's a totally unexpected field where blockchain or AI could have massive impact, but no one's watching it yet?
Some people are, but I feel like blockchain is super important for inventory and logistics. And the ones that have picked up on that are the US military for sure. But a lot of other organizations haven't realized that they can keep track of inventory much more safely through blockchain, internal or external blockchain, just to make sure that they know where everything is. And that's been a problem for the US military because they keep losing things. You don't want to lose something $100 million or whatnot and not know what country it's in, for example. So that's not good.
Yeah, but these are such like conservative fields. So how do you see it? How is it possible to implement blockchain?
Well, they're starting to realize it internally and requesting solutions. For example, I saw that the Navy was looking for so they have these research grants, right? They were offering a research grant for people to come in or startups, basically, to come in and help with the logistics in the Navy, the US Navy, using blockchain. So that was actually public. So that was a published request, very specific, and it's interesting to see that they're actually going that way. The US Air Force has already doubled down on working with the blockchain for their logistics. I think another thing that could be very useful for blockchain is taxes. So like tax history, because these computer systems seems to go down all the time in the governments. Yeah, exactly.
In Europe, like,
or immigration status or anything public like that, like public identity status of someone, for example. The U.S. I'm in the U.S. right now, and I'm getting hit with like reverse culture shock coming back after so many years. And one of the things that I was pretty shocked by is this guy getting sent to El Salvador, even though he's a U.S. citizen. So they deport, not as a U.S. citizen, he's a legal resident in the U.S. They didn't check his paperwork. If they had a way to just check online, like, oh, this is your name, this is your date of birth. Oh, okay. You're supposed to be here. They wouldn't have sent him to the wrong country by accident to start with. So, like, just a lot of silly mistakes wouldn't happen. So that's on that end. And AI, I'm not sure yet which direction, like, what the next thing is going to be. So based on whatever that is, like, there's is it going to be visual machine learning, sound, voice to text? All these things are happening at once right now. So which one's going to be more usable sooner? I don't know yet. And I'm playing around with all these and I still don't know. So it's moving too fast to tell.
Yeah. Thanks. Very interesting. And what do you think, is there a trend right now that sounds cool but never works in real life?
Throwing AI at everything? Probably. It used to be throwing blockchain at everything. So like, we're going to do this on the blockchain, but it didn't make sense. Like cash transactions in person. Like, okay, you can do OTC. You don't need another project for that. So there are a lot of things that sound like a good idea until you actually try to do it. So that happens a lot. Still worth trying different things out and seeing what works. And if you can learn from other people's mistakes, do it. It's cheaper that way.
Yeah. Okay, thanks. Regarding working with projects, what is the great project brief and what's the red flag you always look for when someone approaches you?
So I wish I didn't have to think about this, but I've realized that some people just hate humans. They just do not like other people. And they might have a project or an idea where it's the entire goal is just to enrich themselves. And they don't care about their end client. That's a huge red flag. Or they don't care about their developers. I talked with a guy once who said, oh yeah, my developers got hit by a bomb because they were in a war zone. And it sucks because now we lost the code and we have to start over from scratch. He didn't care that they died. That was like a secondary thing. Like, oh, we lost the code. That's so much worse. And I was like, yeah, I'm not dealing with this guy again. That's just not okay. It doesn't matter how like rational or nerdy you are if you lose that sense of, I guess, basic empathy. Like it's like caring that somebody's alive or dead should be the basic, like, you know, like I'm not asking for, you know, like remembering everybody's birthdays or their middle names or anything like that. I'm just saying like the basic, you know, moral compass. So yeah. That sadly has been way more often than it should. But that was the most blatant example of it, was somebody just straight up saying they didn't care that these people had died, but they should have protected the code more than their lives. Yeah. I was like, wow, okay.
Yeah. Do you think there are like more Web3 these kind of ambitious and
it used to be until they started realizing that maybe a lot more people have realized that maybe blockchain isn't the get rich quick scheme they thought it was, because the barrier to entry has gotten higher and higher and higher to build new projects. It's more and more expensive to build something that's competitive because you have to be better quality now. You can't just throw together a 2D game that looks like hot garbage from the 90s and hope it works in Web3 anymore. No one's going to care. And most of those games have crashed and burnt in the last bear market, and they're not doing any better now. So I'm actually hoping to see better quality projects, as when times are hard, all of those kind of borderline projects get pushed aside. And I think that's a good thing overall for the market.
Yeah, thanks. And what's your internal compass when everything gets messy?
Like all the time.
Yeah.
It's like software is like the amount of people that aren't involved in IT who are always complaining about their computers and complaining about the software not working that they work with, whether it's in hospitals, dental offices, stores, they all have software involved and they're always complaining about it no matter where they are. Like, oh, the machines just don't want us to be able to work today, kind of thing. So that's an aspect all the time in my work, is just things that shouldn't be going wrong. It's just, I've been a tester and a QA, so I know that's just part of life at this point. And then someone just losing their mind at work can be a common thing. So most of the time, it's just some kind of crisis, either due to technology malfunctioning or people, I would almost say malfunctioning at this point, just having some kind of crisis. And then my compass is always, how can we get this smoothed out in a way that's going to be beneficial to everyone as much as possible. A lot of times people only think about how to fix their own personal comfort in a situation, but that doesn't work. That'll always leave somebody upset with the solution. And a lot of startups have a kind of they'll say that they have a flat structure, but oftentimes they have somebody who makes decisions, and sometimes they make them half blind rather than getting all the information. And that hurts a lot of the people who are actually working on the project itself. And sometimes it can hurt the project and even destroy it based on, and it can be small things, giving somebody a promotion that doesn't deserve it, for example, can just destroy a company because the other people get jealous or things like that. Just the smallest thing can start a snowball effect and just wreck the whole project. So my compass is always like, how is this going to affect people long term, and what are the risks? So I'm always assessing risks. And sometimes they can be external too. For example, a war breaking out between countries. All of a sudden you have developers stuck in a place that's getting bombed and things like that. That's happened before. Should you try to get them out? How can you support them? That sort of thing takes priority over the immediate project. And also, like, you don't want your developers dying. That should be basic, Anyhow, none of this should be problems, but they happen. So I've experienced all of this.
Yeah, thanks. And what do you want people say about CripeHub in 10 years?
So in 10 years, I'm hoping CripeHub will have evolved into more than just specific technology brokering aspect, and that there will be an aspect that's more focused on agricultural technology. I'd like to move into that a bit more, specifically because I'm seeing a huge lack of understanding and care about how anything we grow to eat works. So I'm seeing some people actually during COVID, some places actually shut down farms. Like, what are you doing? That's worse than when the solution is worse than the problem, right? Like, oh, let's just starve because we don't want to be in contact to get this disease. That's not how that works. You can't do that. Thankfully, they reversed those positions after somebody a bit more wise on how that works talked to them. But that means there are a lot of people out there who don't have a clue. They just think food shows up in the supermarket out of thin air. They don't understand the logistics to get it there, the amount of farming involved behind it. Anyhow, I could talk about that for an hour or two easily. But that's one thing I want to get involved in more.
Very interesting. And if you had to build something completely outside tech, would it be agriculture as well? Or?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep. Oh, okay.
Yeah. I used to raise ducks, and I tried growing 40 different types of crops, like from asparagus to lavender to ended up growing mostly sunflowers, but that was on purpose.
Thank you so much, Philip. Thank you so much for coming. It was such a pleasure chatting with you.
It was good fun. Thank you.